Running a services business is super interesting, but you can have really hard times. And we had it every year, so you have 10 great months from a revenue perspective, but you have always these 2 bad months. And when these 2 bad months happen in a row, you start doing a list, okay, which people need to be laid off when it's getting worse.
Yeah. There's so many founders and entrepreneurs where what's going to happen in the future is very clear there.
Yeah.
But they have somehow super tunnel vision, and they ignore that either intentionally or unintentionally, and then realize, shit, we're screwed.
Never accept the status quo, but also never change a running system. Especially with AI and in our industry, nobody can foresee what is valid in 2 years, 3 years or 4 years. It triggers a lot of questions which we need to ask as a humanity. And having open eyes for all these new things.
Bjorn, you have a very interesting coming of age, in a sense, and getting to where you are today. So I'm quite keen to have a chat with you.
Thanks for having me.
Let's quickly start with an intro of who you are.
Yeah.
The company that you work currently, that you co-CEO.
Hopefully for longer.
For longer, yeah.
Yeah.
Did I say for now?
Currently.
Currently, okay.
Currently it was like, there's an announcement at the end or something like that.
For the rest of your eternity. And maybe a bit about your background afterwards. So who's Bjorn?
Who's Björn? Yeah, I'm Björn. No, I'm 40 years old now. So
40 years old.
Yeah.
Nikki was right. You look younger than me.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And I'm working in IT, hardware and software since I was 19. So a long time already. What's my background? I'm interested in classic IT stuff, computer software, blah, 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 and so on. Also interested in a lot of other things, scuba diving, sailing, playing games, e-longboarding, and so on.
Building a house.
It was a project of the last 3-4 years, and it's still the project. I mean, you also own a house, there's every time a new smaller project or something to fix and so on.
All the time.
And that's what I'm doing, what I enjoy. I started, what I said already in 2000 with an apprenticeship, classic as an IT sales manager.
Okay.
So I really learned IT stuff. So that's not really common in the industry. Normally people have a little bit of different background or went to university first and so on. I started directly with that. Invented 2 times my own businesses, failed with one and stopped the other one on purpose, and had a lot of different jobs, mostly just for 1 year, because after a year I was bored. I'm more excited about new things. But in the current role, I'm working as co-CEO for Resolution. Mm-hmm. Focus on the sales, marketing, partner stuff, cloud development. And I'm doing this since 2009 now. So also 5 years working with Chris, which was in the previous episode. But I'm working with him since close to 15 years now. So we worked together in a previous company. So he hired me 2 times. So the first one was not a mistake. No, we're having fun. We are both loving what we are doing. We're both loving to do it in a smaller size team with 30 people. Mm-hmm. We both enjoy to work in bigger companies with a couple of thousand employees. But Chris had a little bit earlier the point that he said, no, back to a smaller team. And I followed him 2 years later, because I was in the same situation after a smaller sabbatical and world travel, coming back to the company and realizing that's not so super interesting in the middle management. You get a lot of spreadsheets from your teammates and create a new spreadsheet for your boss.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's what I'm doing.
So I wanna talk a bit about the co-CEO bit and how that dynamic works. 'Cause you don't see often a co-CEO set up in organizations, but I'm curious. IT sales.
Yeah.
Why? How did you get into that?
It was when I was in school. It was relatively early, quick that I don't want to do an A level and going to university and so on. So and I had some holiday jobs in summer. Tested a lot of different things and
Like
was-
what? Give me some examples of things that
I
you
had,
tested.
I also worked, or the strangest holiday job was I did it for 6 weeks. I loaded trucks, so lorries, with just air condition channels the whole day. 6 weeks, 6 days.
Air conditioned.
Yeah,
they're
so-
heavy.
Yeah, but they are on of aluminium and so on, so it is possible to do it.
Were you doing by hand or with the
By hand.
forklifter?
No, it was by hand. It
Oh,
was
wow.
sorting it into the lorry. Then the next came, 6 days a week for 6 weeks. It was, I earned a lot of money. It was a well-paid job, and I was 15 or 16 at this time, and it paid my driver license. It paid a better computer. It left a little bit money for the first car and so on. It was a good job.
Oh, wow.
But it was also relatively clear I don't want to do it for my life. So, and then I went a little bit more in the digital things. I had another job. It was more marketing related, but at this time it was still print marketing was a big thing. So I worked a little bit in an agency. Said, okay, that's super interesting. But at the end, when I applied for these apprenticeships, I got also the job possibility on or with Deutsche Telekom, which is a German telecommunication provider. And at this time, my mother simply said, "Hey, it's a much safer job as a small agency, so maybe you should check this out." And this job role was relatively new because they defined this IT sales personish thing as a job role, a person who understands technology and sales. So a little bit as a to bridge the gap which you have normally between sales departments and technical departments, or on the customer side, technical departments.
I see.
So that was super interesting. So,
And that's what you liked.
Yeah.
Was that the first time you were like, actually, I kind of enjoy this?
yeah, totally. Yeah, because it was super interesting. You learned a lot of things about hardware things. Definitely, it was a telecommunication company, so you learned a lot about telecommunication networks. And today, I would say also super interesting stuff. But what I'm doing now is much more interesting, to working with applications where you have a direct user connection. So putting fiber somewhere, fiber on the street, has not so much end customer or user feedback. But you also learned, or you got some insights in how software development works, how hardware is working, and so on. After this, it was 2.5 years. Yeah, started 2000, finished early 2002. I said, yeah, definitely I should go more in this direction, and focused obviously on sales and IT after this. Yeah.
So you see, your mom was right. she's
On some point, yes, definitely with a job role, but not with the company, because I left Deutsche Telekom immediately after the apprenticeship. So
right.
Yeah.
But she guided you in the right direction, right? You realized something that you like, and you carried on.
yeah, always take care about the stuff what mom says. Yeah.
And with the you said you had 2 companies, one you failed with and one you folded intentionally. Talk to me a bit about that. When was this? Was it after your role at Deutsche Telekom, or did you have other roles afterwards?
Deutsche Telekom was an apprenticeship. After this, I worked a little bit on construction sites for a year, because
Oh, really?
it was hard for me to find a job. And then I did these classic interior stuff, so building walls in houses or destroying walls or whatever.
So you were doing that.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of manual labor in your lifetime.
Yeah, but at this time it was just I applied for a lot of jobs, and it was a hard time for the IT economy. And when you're at this time, I was 20, roughly 20 years old, so applying as a junior sales person.
Not that many opportunities.
Exactly. So it was, just bridging a little bit the break with this work. Then I worked as a sales or account manager for another internet service provider solution. Yeah, after two jobs. After two jobs, I realized that I worked at this time in a city close to Berlin, Potsdam, a smaller city. And I worked for an internet service provider there, and later then for, you call it solution provider or, system integrator. And I realized that companies in the small and medium businesses are having very difficult times to handle IT projects, mostly because they don't have a dedicated person for doing IT stuff. They don't know how to handle all the suppliers and how to manage the time effort, but also how to manage the projects internally. And my approach was a consulting approach, so that I was a little bit like the outsourced IT manager for them, and I worked for free as long as we are doing projects. And I collected then 10-20% of the project revenue from the supplier. So I had a smaller supplier network.
Okay, I see.
They quoted their stuff and so on, and they knew, okay, in addition, they need to pay me as, for them, I was an external salesperson or external consultant, but at the same time, I worked in the interest of the customer.
Yeah, but that's a really interesting business model and quite effective, because it's the customer that needs things done, right? Yeah. It's not like in a sense that these providers would go and say, hey, by the way, and then when they do, most of the small to medium-sized businesses will say, no, I don't have money for this.
Yeah.
Right. So they usually have a need, and if you're there completely for free, it's like, well, why not? I'm gonna get this person. They can deal with figuring out what the best option is for me. I don't pay them anything, and I just pay whatever the work needs to be done from the supplier. That's actually quite smart. But was this something that it was quite popular as a model? And at that point, where did you inspire it from?
I was mostly inspired from experience, because I had these small and medium business companies as customers before when I worked in the previous job for the internet service provider. So it was just the obvious thing. They don't have time for proper IT projects, proper IT equipment, and so on. And there was no way for them to solving it easily. And at the same time, I saw smaller system integrators, and they struggle with sales a lot because they're paying a lot of money to salespeople, but they have always this hard onboarding phase with every customer, a couple of appointments and so on. And my idea was, there is a way to shorten this time frame. Just when you take out a little bit the sales-ish thing from a customer, from the system integrator perspective, and also from the customer perspective, when you have in both directions a trusted advisor role, then you can connect things much faster.
Yeah,
and, that was I haven't seen it before, but I also haven't done research. I was simple too young, said, okay, let's try it. I can't lose anything. There was no investment or something like that needed. It was just me and running around and doing it.
I do see a challenge with that dynamic, though. So you said that you were tending to the customer's best interest and stuff. But it's very hard to do that when you have a profit to gain from suppliers. Yeah. And, other people that are not so, let's say, kind-hearted would massively take advantage of that. Because one, you can have these companies lobby you as a supplier. Yeah. And you might be pushing their product, although not the best fit to the customer, because
Yeah.
these guys, wine and dine you and
Yeah.
give you the biggest discount and so on.
Yeah.
And then it's also potentially, I've seen this, especially nowadays with TikTok. I see so many of these TikToks where these suppliers or handyman or things like that take advantage of their customers by just injecting more cost and expenditure to a work that was supposed to be tiny, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get the trust of these companies? Was it mainly because you worked with them in the past?
Yes, and recommendations. I mean, I totally see these conflict of interests.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I would also say nowadays, nowadays it would be more complicated for doing it because the world is more global today. But I worked at this time in an environment of a small city. So means what was a way for getting new customers? The most important way was recommendations. So when one customer would realize, okay, Bjorn is doing somehow a little bit bullshit here because he earns money from the supplier and so on, immediately all future customers in this small country would know it. Yeah, so recommendation was one important point. And the second point was that, or a second channel for new customers, where all these small and medium business events, which you have in smaller towns, organized from, I don't know, parties or whatever. Also there it was, word of mouth relationship. So it was super important that you are trustful and your customers trust you, and there's always a second or a third project. So at the end, I did it for a little bit more as 1.5 years. A classic project cycle where over minimum a couple of weeks, longer a couple of months, and I handled 20, 30 projects in parallel, and that was also enough. So it worked really well. I mean, the biggest problem was that it doesn't scale. Yeah, it
was just you.
Yeah,
makes sense. So was that the reason why you closed it, or what happened?
Somehow yes. Because I realized after a time it doesn't scale, and it was a starting point where companies provided more and more managed services to customers. At this time, it was more a big enterprisey thing. Mm-hmm. I said, hey, that will also work in small and medium businesses. And I had one customer who was interested in that, and they had a new office, 20 employees and so on. And I said, okay, I can sell you all the stuff as a managed service on a monthly fee. And I said, okay, I'm going in the pre-investment, buying all the things from my suppliers and charge to this customer. The problem was a little bit, I bought all this stuff and we also installed it, but then the customer was bankrupt. So it means I had IT equipment for 20 people, including network, servers, storage, firewalls, all the stuff what you need. And no income for this equipment. And a huge invoice or huge already paid invoices from the supplier. So then I got afraid from the situation that I have a lot of debts on my bank account and was afraid to solve this problem somehow in these with the to solve the problem on the way. Okay, I need more customers or something like that. I ran away and just went to, okay, you need a normal job now where you can earn money with a monthly paycheck. Started to work in addition in a bar as a waiter to get rid of these debts on the bank account. So that was the reason why it failed.
It's sometimes daunting, especially when something like this happens and it's like, fuck this, I'm just gonna go back to a stable, secure job and like not to get into these fuck ups and ruin my future with financial debt and things like that. Well, at least now I know where the roots of your impulsive buying comes from.
Yes.
For those that don't know, Bjorn buys a lot of gear like myself, for not just filming but various technology stuff. So you like to buy and try gear, but I think I might have uncovered the roots of that.
Yeah, potentially, yes.
That might have been your first tech buy rampage.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So then you got a job. Like, when was this?
It was somewhere around 2005, 2006. Yeah, 2005, 2006. So it was shortly before the World Cup, the football World Cup was in Berlin. And yeah, that was around this time.
So what did you do afterwards?
I had the job. What I chose was a job in a marketing agency. So it was an agency. I mean, for a young person like me, amazing was my first agency experience. A lot of other young people. So we worked 16 hours per day. You were in the office Saturday, Sunday. Totally crazy. I quit it after 3 months because I realized it's not super healthy just being at home for having a shower and then going back to the office. But it was close to the World Cup, and I realized a lot of companies searched for people with point of sale marketing during the World Cup to sell, I don't know, flags from every country to all the fans and so on. I said, okay, let's open a business and being a little bit a point of sale marketing consultant after working 3 months in this marketing agency. And it worked out really well. So it was the best 4 weeks or best World Cup what I ever had, because I had 3 jobs in parallel. And one job was just organizing. There was a company and they produced thousands of flags of every country in a small plastic ball. And their idea was, we simply hire some guys and they can sell it on the street. But that was not allowed. So, and a friend came with this problem to me and said, hey, they hired me as a project manager, and now I'm searching for people with ideas how we can sell these thousands of balls to people. And we realized that on every fan area in every city in Germany, you had the classic, you have your sausage stand, beer, then fan article stuff, etc. But you had always these small shop booths where people sold plates, handmade plates or whatever. And we found it feels a little bit wrong. It looks misplaced in a fan area. But this was the situation in every country, in every city. And I had a chat with a guy who owned the booth in Berlin, and I proposed to him that when we can have 50% of his space, we would put all the flags with the balls, blah, 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 in it. But we also provide additional salespeople, and they sell the flags with the ball, but also their stuff for free. We just need to make a little bit space.
Nice.
And I asked him, and it was funny wise, there was really the connection. I asked him if he knows the people in the other cities as well. And he said, yes.
We're friends, we're buddies.
There were also some intro events and so on organized from the FIFA when they organized all the stuff. So he had also contacts. I called some friends, said, okay, you in Düsseldorf, you need to go to this. You talk to the guy, that's the story. And in 2 days, we organized that this company had a selling space on every fan area.
Oh, wow.
In Germany. And that was the job. That was, I was paid with a revenue share and
I was going to ask,
day rate and so on. It was good at the end. And then I was a little bit bored, worked in parallel as a VIP driver for a company who flew in a lot of people, and that was my job to pick them up at the airport, bring them to a hotel, then to the stadium and so on. It was super funny because it was a classic management level of a huge worldwide company who produce washing powder and so on. So super interesting chats. And I had for free a car. That's the whole time. Yeah, so super interesting time. I tried to do the marketing point of sale stuff after the World Cup a little bit longer. But yeah, the World Cup was amazing. But after this, the real work starts, finding new customers and so on.
Yeah.
So I checked relatively quick that this would be a super hard way to extend this business, and went back to a job where I said, okay, job and again, more IT technology thing, more sales, because I still had some debts on the bank account. So back to this route. And yeah, that at the end brought me together on some point with Chris Reichert. Yeah.
That was, how many jobs did you had in between that World Cup summer and getting the resolution role?
I worked for a distributor, Cisco IT distributor, after World Cup for 2 years, then switched to an IT service provider for 9 months. And then a headhunter called me and I joined Chris' other company at the time. So 3 jobs. The company was called Intect. It was classic service business with a different sales approach, that our customers were other IT solution service integrators and so on. We haven't sold our services to end customers. We just extended the workforce of these service integrators. And that brought me together with Chris. We did it together. He sold the company to the distributor where I worked before, funny wise.
Oh, wow.
I did 4 years there, and then I joined Resolution. Yeah, so 3.5, 4 jobs roughly.
And this second business and hustle, which was the summer
marketing job
stuff.
Feeling, yeah.
What year was this again?
2006.
2006. Okay.
Yeah.
So from 2006 until today, how come you haven't gone and done something of your own? What is it like? Is it not that big of an interest? You're like more working with certain teams, being part of others' mission. Do you consider it your mission? So what kept you from saying, I should go out and start something from scratch again?
I think I lost a little bit the idea in 2007, 2008. It was not in my mind. And after the sales job for the distributor and after the job for the system integrator, I joined Chris in the previous company. And this was the first time that I had a job longer as 2 years. Normally my average time was a year. Okay. So the longest so far, 2 years.
Classic founder thing, just searching for the next thing.
Yeah, but joining this company, when I joined Intect, had 35 people. And when Chris sold it, it was 120 or something like that. It had already I had the possibilities to figure out a lot of stuff by my own. So it was the sales part was relatively fresh. It was not settled. It was creating building a lot of workflows, figuring out how you can sell the service and so on. So I would say my day-to-day job was like being the owner of the company, without the risk, without all the responsibilities. And it was a great team. So at this time, there was not a minute the idea to do something different. It was a stressful job, but we managed to hire great people, and it was really, I normally hate it when people are saying this, companies like family and something, because I believe that should be split on somehow. Yeah. But I need to say this was really like a family. So, and it was cool. It was interesting. So you were busy with your day-to-day stuff. You learned a lot of new things. You met a lot of interesting people. I was allowed to define my own services. It was first a lot about engineering and installation services. And on some point, we went in the direction of consultancy business. And we couple of years later, we sold business coaches to big telecommunication providers, again Deutsche Telekom, so that's where the circle closed. So and we sold sales education things, sales consultants to these teams to accelerate their processes and so on. So there was not really a need to start something by my own.
So you kept yourself busy and engaged in all of the stuff that you're doing, and did that continue when the company got acquired? Was it the same dynamic? All of a sudden, you felt like you had to constrain your role a bit more, in a sense?
I mean, it was super interesting because the company got acquired from a company where I quit before. So
hi teammates, hi again.
And I mean, Chris, when he got the offer, he called me and a colleague, and we discussed it and so on. Is it a good idea? And running a services business is super interesting, but you can have really hard times. And we had it every year. So you have 10 great months from a revenue perspective, but you have always these 2 bad months. And when these 2 bad months happen in the row, you start doing a list, okay, which people need to be laid off when it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And at this time, there was also the rumor that the company who bought us will open a services business anyway. So with us or without us.
Okay.
So, and that was clear when we are not joining this journey, then we have a huge competitor. And with this aspect in our mind, we joined the company. And for me, it was, well, first of all, it was for me the possibility to step up to manage teams and so on. So this happened immediately with the acquisition. So here, that's your sales team now. Have fun, good luck, and so on. But at the same time, it was also the bigger company was at this time in the phase of a new SAP integration, etc. And SAP integration in companies with 4,000 or 5,000 people are projects over 4 or 5 years. And it was a hardware distribution company, so means joining as a services company where your product are humans and services was a big challenge. And I found this challenge super interesting. So how is it possible to implement a services business in a big spaceship like this as a group of 120 people, and how to grow it and how to invent new services. So we work mainly for Cisco systems, but this distribution company had hundreds of vendors where they had contracts and where they delivered their hardware every day. And inventing new services for other hardware providers who were interesting solution providers was a huge challenge. I really look forward to it. And it was super cool. But at the end, after 4 years of all the integration stuff and so on, companies like this living from quarter to quarter. So you have a quarterly goal, you need to achieve it. Perfect. When you don't achieve it, you have a lot of meetings. And on some point, all the stuff was settled. So our team size, just the services team size, was 450 people in Europe. At the end, I managed a sales team in Europe. So with Spain, UK, France, classic Nordics countries and Germany. Having this international management role. And I realized after, it was maybe 9 months or a year, that's not what I want. So being in a settled environment with these quarterly management stuff and where it's hard to change things, and that was at the end the reason for saying, okay, I need to stop this.
But did you enjoy managing a team? Because to me it sounds like when you're doing your innovating, you're inventing, you're creating
Yeah.
sales products, right? Products
Yeah.
to sell and so on prior, and then you got acquired and you got assigned a team, and it was an opportunity for you. So you were looking up for that. Was it what you imagined in a sense? Did you enjoy it?
You learn a lot. Let's say it like this. And probably you need to ask my ex-teammates or my actual teammates, because
Okay, give me their numbers.
some people moved also to resolution. No, I enjoy it a lot. I mean, it's in all the previous jobs and all the stuff what I've done. It was having. I measured 1 year how much time I spent on the phone. With that class, was a year of statistics. I counted every flight, how often I missed flights, and so on. And I came to an average phone time of 9 hours per day. So it was always a job of talking to people. So, and managing a team is talking to people and understanding what their needs are and so on. I think I have when I honestly ask my teammates and so on, I would say I can only manage teams where the teammates are also self-responsible and also having a little bit these, okay, I'm the company in the company.
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't, I would say I can't manage a team where people need a step-by-step guidance every day. So in onboarding phases and so on, yes, and then for new stuff, totally. But then I'm good. Then I'm good in challenging people and also accept challenges together. That we try to figure out together how we can solve project X, Y, Z, or how can we achieve the next quarterly goal, which is bigger as the goal before, and so on. So having these partners in crime,
partners in crime.
Yeah. So is an environment where I would say yes, I'm good in it and I like it. I mean, you know me, I love Excel spreadsheets also a lot, and figuring out how I can get learnings out of data points or whatever, and trying to solve problems with proper data in the background and figuring out what is a good next step. And that was super interesting in this big company in the beginning as well. But after a while, it's the same report, which is shared every week, every quarter, every month, and so on.
Yeah. Have you ever had the opposite of that in terms of teams, as in, let's say, you having to manage a lot more, tightening the harness in a sense, because people are a bit all over the place or not 100% motivated? Have you ever dealt with that?
Yeah, also in the same job. I mean, the idea of the acquisition of the services company was that the services scale also from a sales perspective. So, and this company had already worldwide sales teams, and we had special services sales teams. But one part of the job was to educate the other sales teams in how to sell services.
Right.
And after the acquisition, we came in as youngsters, and yes, we have the best product after sliced bread in our pockets. Here it's a data sheet for a service for a classic Monday or whatever. Start to sell it, and then you learn they're not selling it. What's wrong here? And it took me years to understand why it was not possible to convince them to sell services. And this was working many years with a lot of different sales teams spread in Germany or in Europe, and tried to solve this problem. But at the end, it worked out when we hired people who traveled every day from sales team to sales team to sales team to just remind them, go sell services. And this was this learning was interesting on some point. I mean, they were super good sales teams, but they
But what were they selling? Were they selling products?
Hardware.
Hardware. Yeah,
So
products.
normally they are the go-to person for companies like IBM, Computer Center, and so on. And when IBM wins a project, then IBM calls them and says, okay, I need 100 servers of this with this configuration, blah, blah, blah. So they were distribution salespeople. So a distribution salesperson is more an account manager as a salesperson. So you got a request, you fulfill the request, and then it's fine. But I learned they have different priorities. And I also learned how to make changes in a big organization like this. We had the amazing idea every salesperson is measured on margin or a revenue or whatever. It was somehow margin what they are doing. And distribution business is a low margin business. They normally deal with 2, 3, 4, 5% margin on the stuff. And we defined all services as 100% margin. So we said, yeah, that's a game changer. Every salesperson will love this. But it was not the case. So they all understood that they can earn more money with that and can easier achieve their goals. But there were more barriers. And this took us a while to understand that it's not just, or for some reasons for this salesperson, it's not just about money. So far, I always thought, okay, salesperson is triggered for money. That's why they're working in sales. I mean, I worked many years in sales. And when a salesperson answers honestly on what is motivating you, it's the bonus at the end of the quarter. I also love the job and so on, but being working in sales and being a good salesperson, the alignment to a goal and the willing to overachieve this goal is a very important motivator.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Do you reckon that selling services is harder than selling products? As a salesperson, in a sense.
It depends a little bit on the product and also on the service. I mean, in selling services, it is totally needed to understand the problem of the customer and what the customer wants to achieve.
Right.
So it means in the sales phase or the classic pre-sales phase, you need to get as much as possible a proper understanding about the project.
So you have to be technical. You have to be knowledgeable of the subject matter.
Yeah,
a lot more than knowing the specs of a product.
Exactly. And you invest a lot of time to doing this. So normally you're not paid in this phase. It's your investment as a company in having salespeople in customer meetings, pre-sales consultants or engineers and so on. That was always the gambling, how much you want to invest in this potential project or this potential project and so on. I think this is this is definitely harder as in classic product sales because in product sales, it's a customer has a proper understanding that he need to start an eval or he need to buy the product and then he need to implement it somehow. But then you are more in the adoption phase or how can we make it work? You're not in the sales phase anymore. So I think this
so it's a clearer transition to when you're like on the sales phase versus let's say onboarding and a company-wide adoption and so on. Whereas with services, what you're saying is that it's a lot more of a blurry line in between when you're still in sales or whether you're in...
Blurry is a perfect description. We often started with project and nobody was aware that the project already started because a pre-sales phase immediately went in a proof of concept installation and you haven't sent a final quote and you haven't an order for this and you're already working on customer side. So, but I think on the other hand, on services is the benefit that when something is not working out as it was planned, you can normally act much faster as a product company. And you have also very often an excuse. Oh, sorry, the product has a bug. Yeah. So then you're out as a service person. You have definitely the discussion who's paying the bill now for all the additional hours and so on, but it's not your fault.
Yeah.
As in a product business, this is different because normally it takes you much longer to fix problems on a product. Because as a product company, you need to think about, when I change the feature a little bit in this direction or that direction, this has an effect on all the customers.
Yeah, exactly. You're tailoring tailoring a solution to multiple consumers versus the one which is a service.
And that's the easier part of the services business. So in services business, you can solve things individual.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you want to avoid in a product business, because you end up with 10,000 different versions of your product.
So I suppose, were you relieved? Were you concerned? Were you scratching your head when you rejoined Resolution and now you're selling products instead of services?
It was a relatively funny conversation. I just met Chris because I was back from a world travel, and 3 months later, so I had this point where I realized, okay, you need to do something different. And I was also at this time a little bit sick of the services business because it had already a size where we managed 120, 130 projects in parallel. So means escalation was always escalation mode. Engineer is sick, product is buggy, whatever. And at the same time, a lot of pressure on sales numbers. So it was handling spreadsheets and escalation calls in parallel. And I said, okay, I want to get rid of these two things, management spreadsheets and escalation calls. So it was relatively clear that I want to do something with products, because a product can't be sick. Okay, it can be buggy, but not sick. And something potentially in a smaller company. But this was more optional. It was.
Why was it optional? Why was it not a strong preference, for example?
Because I was also interested in, at this time, 2019 was this IoT topic, relatively famous.
Right, and a lot of big companies do IoT.
Yeah, so it means I looked at jobs like Bosch in Germany was a big player at this time, had amazing visions for IoT. I said, okay, when you want to go in the product company and should be IoT related, then it's potentially a bigger company. So that was not a must-have. At the smaller company, I explained this to Chris. We had just met for lunch. He was already working 100% for Resolution, left the company 2 years earlier. And then he said to me, I'm searching for a co-CEO. Or maybe I'm searching for a co-CEO.
Maybe.
So
he usually does that. Even when we started discussion of investing, he's like, maybe I'm interested in investing.
Yeah. Exactly. No, and then I was a little bit surprised from that, because I was totally not my intention, or it was not. I haven't this on my radar that this could be an option. And then Chris said, hey, you can simply join a partner meeting, that you get a little bit an idea how the whole ecosystem works and what the dynamic of the ecosystem is, because we worked together before in the Cisco ecosystem, and it's also a super nice ecosystem. I loved to work with all the partners, but it was also a super well established ecosystem. Pressure on margins, very competitive, and so on. And Chris explained to me how Atlassian ecosystem is different. It's more friendly, partners talking to each other, and so on. So, well, okay, sounds interesting. So let's visit a partner. And then he also invited me to the App Week 2019 in Berlin, to just the after party And I think you also met Chris there the first time. Or?
Wait a minute. I think I vaguely remember something. I think I remember you at one point telling me that you weren't part of. Oh yes, you did tell me. I remember it was this weird thing you were telling me that once you invested in Jigsaw, you were telling me that you weren't part of resolution at that point.
Exactly. It was a little bit difficult because a lot of people ask, okay, for which company you're working? I can't say it.
I'm independent.
Yeah. And yeah, these were 2 events. And I mean, I at this time, I already knew half of the resolution team because same teammates as before.
Yeah.
So, and after these 2 events and meeting the people and so, yeah, that's super interesting.
So for the people, I understand that, as in, you've worked with, this team, it was familiar and such. But what was it about those events that made you decide, I want to be part of this?
I mean, also every ecosystem is changing. Yeah? When you ask nowadays Atlassian partner how much the ecosystem changed in the 5 years, but I think at this time, and I think also believe that it still exists and it's still outstanding for the Atlassian ecosystem, that there's really a partnership between competitors. And that people are open for a chat, a discussion, or brainstorming some stuff without having immediately the intention, what is in it for me? That was for me really attractive, because this means you can learn a lot, you can ask people about their knowledge, their experiences, and so on, and you can also discuss new ideas without shielding it to all potential competitors massively. So that was one part. And then I never worked with software or software as a product. And I had somehow a rough understanding, okay, there is something, versions, people develop something, then it's finished, it's a new version. But that was it. So, and yeah, a little bit my school knowledge of developing with Turbo Pascal or something like that, a Snake game. So that was my software experience so far.
I mean, I've never done that, so you have something there.
You haven't missed something. So, no, and doing this and at the same time being in a relatively technical environment too. So I mean, you can work for a software company which like Atlassian or like an app vendor in the Atlassian marketplace with a lot of technical background. I mean, you with Jigsaw, you had also personas, project management was a big thing, or is still a big thing for the apps. Where you say, okay, also your customer base is super interesting. You enjoy to understand the success story from a customer and what a customer is doing with your stuff. And I think that was also an interesting interest or important topic for me, that I'm interested to work also with this customer environment besides all the partners and so on.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that. Being part of the Atlassian ecosystem for a while, I don't know if you did, but I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen, like you say, competitors, people fighting for the Jira and Confluence users' attention with their products and their solutions, also being in the same rooms and just being able to chat about stuff without seeking to harm one another or to get something out of it. It was quite, I would say, quite new to me.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had something like that in the past in workplaces and ecosystem environments?
So the competitive environments, or
no, the collaboration in between competitors and brands.
Yes, but it was then well-defined project with a lot of contracts, what is allowed, what is not allowed before you start to work or talk to each other and so on. So it's in the Cisco ecosystem, you had a lot of big players and then a lot of smaller services companies. And there was a collaboration between the smaller services companies, because they also need to be realistic that they can't solve every customer problem alone and so on. And they extended their workforces with sharing projects, etc. But it was always a hard discussion, because it was completely different from the margin on profit perspective. Companies need to companies in these more established ecosystems need to think about, or need to balance much better how much time and money they invest in a specific idea upfront before it starts earning money. And it's the same in I think that's also a nature a little bit of software environments. I mean, developing software means you invest 6 months, 12 months, 18 months in developing a product, and that maybe pay out in a year, in 3 years, in 4. So, and in a hardware business, it's really more, okay, there's a project, we ship the hardware, we install it, we get the money. And that's why the margin is much smaller, and that's why the room for ideas and the room for this openness, collaborating, that competitors collaborating with each other is much, much smaller. But we had this situation as well.
Do you think there's any risks of an ecosystem where competitors are allowed to freely collaborate? Because I suppose, like, for example, so, like in the Cisco environment, the fact that there was a lot more structure and a lot more do's and don'ts were for very specific reasons to prevent certain things. Do you think there's a bigger risk in environments where there's a lot more freedom and getting into challenges, issues, disputes, things like that?
Yeah, I think there are many aspects which are influencing the style or the actual nature of an ecosystem. So first of all, in most of the cases, the ecosystem is organized on a specific topic, product, technology, vendor, whatever. When it's like in the Atlassian ecosystem, the vendor is controlling a little bit the ecosystem, but he's more moderator. And I think vendors like Atlassian are responsible for also giving a vision and to share their vision, that the ecosystem can create smaller visions which fit to that, and more individual visions for specific use cases, whatever. So that's a really important part. At the same time, the major player in the ecosystem, in this case Atlassian, is somehow responsible for harmonize and balance the ecosystem. So we have it already in some European countries that you have too much solution partners. And this creates the competition to customer about customer projects and so on. And this ends up automatically in less collaboration. So when companies like Atlassian or who are driving these ecosystems, Cisco made the same on some point, that they said, okay, we need to get rid of some of these solution partners. We need to balance it a little bit more, that the cake is big enough for everybody in the market, that they can do this creative work and so on. And then at the same time, it's also about all the parties in the ecosystem. When one attendee of an ecosystem starts to not breaking the rules, but find new ways to win projects. For example, I don't know, discounting a little bit more as all the others and so on. This is very often a trigger for really bad journey. It feels like a bad journey in the beginning, but I strongly believe it's the nature of an ecosystem when it's coming from a healthy margin where you can create a business on it and so on. It's always the case that the margin after a couple of years is lower, and automatically people are more competitive.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like in a family. Yeah, everybody has his role, and sometimes you have a fight, but mostly it's totally harmonized, or that's what where everybody's going for. But kids are growing up and doing their own stuff and so on, and that's how I experience ecosystems. That there is a life cycle in these ecosystems, and then companies leave, other companies join with fresher ideas. Companies who are from the beginning in the ecosystem are also often losing creativity and so on, are blocked from the classic business, from new ideas. So yeah, but I really enjoy the Atlassian ecosystem. I think it has at the moment the momentum that Atlassian develops a lot of new stuff with every new feature or new product. Marketplace vendors or solution partners are potentially punished because they have successful app in this environment or a successful service in the environment.
Like resolution, eh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Too much success.
No, not really, but yeah, it is the case that that we as a solution, we are in the lucky situation that we know that most of our products will be obsolete in a couple of years. And we don't know in how much years. It's maybe 3 or 5 or 10, hopefully 10, but because there is no way for our data center product in cloud. So, and I personally find this is a good thing that we know this. Most companies don't know when their business will be disrupted. So we are in the lucky situation that we know it upfront. Yeah. And this gives us a clear task. We need to be creative for new apps, other apps. We need to try out things. We need to experiment and so on.
Yeah. And I think you've been doing great since I met Christian and then yourself and the Resolution. I realized that it's a company that's probably always going to exist, because you have that sense of adaptability, right? Even when we met, it was the whole kind of server announcements and so on, and Resolution was already looking at strategies of getting into cloud, partnering up with others, and so on. So I think that's one thing that you have, and then it is I would say it is a skill, because there's so many founders and entrepreneurs and companies out there where what's going to happen in the future is very clear there. Yeah. But they have somehow super tunnel vision, and they ignore that either intentionally or unintentionally, and then realize, shit, we're screwed.
I mean, it's I don't know the episode with Chris yet, but I'm sure he has explained his strategy, and you can think by your own, but you also need to understand that you can't have every amazing idea.
Yeah.
And when you have the possibilities to bet on other characters who can have these ideas and good in involving ideas and executing the ideas, then you should invest in it. And
that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
So you guys are very in sync, which is great.
Yeah.
That's why you're co-CEOs. And speaking of co-CEO, why co-CEO? How did that come? So you said that Christian was looking for a co-CEO.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, why?
You should ask him. No.
Was it simply hey, I'm the CEO of the company. I deal with so many things. I want someone to split those things with, or what was the thinking there?
Yes, I think what you described is definitely a part of it. So Chris, his background is technical. He has a lot of knowledge in other things. He has knowledge in marketing and sales, but he's not a sales and a marketing person. But he has he recognized good campaigns, or what is good and what is bad. And he is super good in understanding when things could work better. And I think at this time, Chris was on a point with the resolution that the team grew over the years, and developers and so on, but grew fast. And he saw the potential that this could be more successful when he makes space for a second responsibility, because he loves the technology, and when he can talk all days with developers about an interesting topic, then he will do it, and he does it also. And we are relatively similar, so we are both relatively quick interested in new things. So this has the benefit that you can test a lot of stuff, experiment a lot of stuff. You're not afraid of experimenting, but you can also lose relatively quickly a direction. And when you have two people as co-CEOs who are interested in a lot of things, but both realize, okay, this is our journey at the moment, we need to focus on this, then this gives at the end resolution the possibility to be more successful. And when I joined, we were 14 people, now we are 30. So it was not just, okay, a co-CEO, it was also the enablement of increasing the teammates, and managing them, and so on. And yeah, he was, I think, also honest with himself that from a marketing perspective, so far he did the basics, very successful. I mean, resolution is, and we are, and he was in the lucky situation that the Summit Single Sign-On product was an amazing idea. It generated revenue as one of the first apps in the marketplace, without marketing, without sales, without everything, just an app in the marketplace. But he also realized that this is now the time where the basics are potentially not enough anymore.
Yeah, it's not going to last forever. In a sense, although it lasted pretty darn long, and it's still there. It's still your flagship product. What are you looking up for related to your future as a professional?
Oh, that's a really good question.
And I didn't tie it into any time frame or any area specific. Just because I want to see first thing that comes into your head. Like when you think of your career moving forward, what's the one thing that you're looking up for?
I mean, as you know, we invest in smaller companies and founders and startups and so on, which is amazing. And you with your team, Jackson, I mean, you were the first investment from us, and it was a successful investment also from a resolution perspective. And I personally learned a lot out of it. It was in the beginning possible to share a lot of things from our experience and my personal experience with you.
Oh, yes.
But relatively quick, it was more a conversation that we chatted about our experience, and on some points you came up with much better ideas or with a much better experience and things what we still had on the list. We are simple too slow. So you accelerated a lot the pace of ideas, and also with other ideas back to us. And we are now involved in 3, 4, 5 companies in different businesses. So we also extended our investment outside of the Atlassian ecosystem thing. So invested in 2 companies who are focusing on movie, optimizing with software or the movie business. And I think back to your question, I would love to say to be able to say in a couple of years that we had similar successful stories like with Jackson. that every of these startups is successful, and that I was personally a part of it. So I'm at the moment heavily involved in one of these startups to finish their product readiness and so on. So I'm learning a lot about the movie market at the moment.
That's
and
cool.
I'm able to share what is our experience in software development, because they are all experts in the movie market, but not in software development. And I want to be potentially in 4 or 5 years, best case, on a movie conference with a very successful product and successful founders, and want to be able to say, yes, that was the right way and the right journey. And that's I want to do the next couple of years exactly what I'm doing now. So it's I have the freedom to pick projects. We have a great team. I love to work with the team every day. I have daily challenges. I'm triggered and motivated from challenges. That's my fuel. And yeah, I have no higher goal at the moment. So I'm happy with what I'm doing.
It sounds like you live a blissful life, one full of motivations and aspirations, but blissful nonetheless. And I think it's also it's a testament of what resolution is and what you and Christian were able to achieve, which is, build this environment where you're generating revenue, it's successful, but most importantly, you get to work on the cool shit that you want to work on, which is very important, like making the work place a place where you enjoy and you're delighted to be in, which is awesome. And it's also great to see that, to hear you talk about Jigsaw as the OG of your investments and the North Star in a sense.
Yeah, so definitely. You made you set at the threshold at the moment. Every investment others need to be more successful to be the new North
Hell
Star.
yeah, and a smooth ride.
Yeah,
relatively smooth ride. Okay.
No, but I mean, I think. Maybe Chris has explained the same story in this episode, but there's always a point of timing. You can have a good idea and the idea is amazing, but it's the wrong timing. You can meet people, they are amazing, but it's the wrong timing for a joint project or a joint journey or whatever. Yeah. And I think everything came together. You set up an amazing team. It was the right time that you met Chris, that you discussed an investment and so on. And it was the right time for your products, for your product ideas. So you definitely understood what the market needed. And I mean, we have 46 apps on the marketplace. I know that a lot of good ideas stay with 50 installs and that's it. So, and you personally strong believe in, that's the best shit ever. But no customer think like this.
Yeah,
so,
true.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Close off usually with 3 flash questions.
Okay.
1, what is a quote that you live by?
A quote?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's we can go with the first. I'll tell you along the way. So answer this one, and then we'll go to the next one. You don't get all of them in the same time.
Which camera you want to have? Fail better. So that's where
fail better.
That's a quote where I live. So.
That's
flash question, so
a
short answer?
Yeah, that's a short answer. Yeah,
okay.
What's a book that changed or impacted your life, be it your professional life or personal life?
Okay.
Whichever you prefer.
First of all, I need to read more books. So
do I.
Yeah. No, I would say the first book which comes to my mind is from Max Barry. It's a novel. It's called Company. And he worked 20 years for Hewlett-Packard and wrote a very humoristic, sarcastic book about companies as organizations and how people interact in these organizations. It's an amazing book. It pictures a lot of things which happens in reality with a very sarcastic, humoristic edition in it. And yeah, when you ever worked in big companies and you always think, oh, I'm the only person who had this experience and so on. Read this book; it's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Especially the sarcastic and humoristic,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you have to make banter of these things that happen after a while. If you do it instantly, you're just a jerk, right?
Yeah.
But if it passes some time and you apply banter, it feels funny
I
looking back.
can't spoiler the book, but it when you've read the book, you will understand what it is.
Okay, cool. I'll read it. And then last question: what is a good habit that you advocate for? Positive habit. Don't say smoking.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, I also I want to quit this, and now we have it on record.
On camera.
So I need
Okay.
to do,
I'm gonna clip this moment. You said you quit.
Yeah. No, I think being interested and being open for new things. It's I strongly believe then, and never accept the status quo, but also never change a running system. So, but we are now living in a world which acts so super fast, and this sentence was valid the last 10 years, last 20, last 30, last 50 years. So, but especially with AI and in our industry, nobody can foresee what is valid in 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. And not just for the industry, I think also the whole AI thing triggers a lot of questions which we need to ask as a humanity. And being interested in that and trying to understand what's going on there and experimenting with that, and always being open for experiments instead of focusing the old passes. So that's what I tried. Well, it's not really trying to do it simple. I'm interested in things and looking around. So it's sometimes bad because you're super fast distracted and you're going in this direction. But no, I would say that's a good habit. Having open eyes for all these new things.
Yeah, and experimenting with moderation. Not like us.
Yeah.
We experiment a bit too much sometimes. No, thank you so much. And honestly, just having this conversation with you right after Christian, it just makes me realize how alike the two of you are. You have your differences in different characters. You're definitely different characters. But in terms of some of the notions and the thinking and the philosophies, in a sense, you're very alike, and that it makes a lot of sense on why you partner up and you're still running Resolution together as it stands. So also thank you so much for joining me on this. I was looking forward to have you as well as Christian, so I appreciate you talking through your story and the mishaps and the wins as well.
Cool, perfect. Thanks
Cheers.
a lot again for having me.